Welcome, everybody, to the Tax and Money Show, which runs every single Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on freedomreport.ca. And today, we're talking about why you need to escape Quebec. Now, that slides in French. Je n'ai pas parlez-vous français, so I believe it is pronounced échapper hors de Québec. Yeah, get out. Get out now. Escape Quebec. Start making some money, because I can tell you right now, none of our clients in Quebec are making any money at all, because the Quebec government is absolutely crazy. So we're going to talk about a couple of things here before we dive right into the whole Quebec issue. And that is, I am doing just fine. For all of you out there, I find it very bizarre and interesting and cool that there's a lot of people out there that just kind of forgot that I existed. They kind of forgot that I used to have a YouTube channel back in 2017 that had 2.5 million subscribers. And then they'll say occasionally here on TikTok, here on Kick, here on Instagram, here on Rumble, and everywhere else, oh man, I didn't realize you were still on the internet. You know, people don't think that if a YouTube channel gets shut down, that perhaps I'm on all the other social media. But for those of you out there who, I guess, forgot about my existence, welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for being here. I have officially been outside of Canada now for 20 months. It's been 20 months since I was inside of the communist former Dominion of Canada. Now it's just a dump. I am a much happier individual not being there around the entire left-wing audience and so on. I'm also quite pleased to be nowhere near the brokenness and the bankruptcy of just about every institution in that country. And we're going to cover a lot of that tonight, everybody. We'll start with the basics. Let's go with the basics. I grew up in the city of Mississauga, which is to the immediate west of Toronto. Toronto's airport, Lester B. Pearson International Airport, formerly Toronto International Airport, is entirely inside of my hometown. And as a result of me being in Toronto, it was a 5-hour drive to get to Montreal. Now, I'm kind of disappointed in myself that the first time I went to Montreal, I was 18. I waited that long to go to Quebec. It was only 5 hours away. You know, we just never thought to go. And I know part of it was the fact that there was always that English versus French dichotomy. But at the same time, I kept myself incredibly busy. I took on my first part-time job when I was 10, and I just kept working all the way through until adulthood now. So it has been excessively difficult to break away for a full week to go and do something, because I had always scheduled some type of work. And when I got into being a disc jockey in the late 80s, that lasted for almost 4 years. So for 4 years, I had to commit to being inside the greater Toronto area Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. It didn't leave much time to go and explore Montreal or otherwise. But when I finally did get to go, I was blown away at what a party town it really was. At the time, we're talking the late 80s, early 90s, Party Central. Shot over to Quebec City. I was floored at how beautiful the city is. And obviously, there's a bit of a different culture. It's more of a Parisienne style culture in Quebec City. It's very opposite Montreal. And I was also very pleased to be able just to tour around all the smaller towns around both of those cities. So I had quite a bit of love for Quebec based on how much there was to do. There's a lot to do in Montreal. There's a lot to do in Quebec. At least there was. I don't know now. A lot to do in Quebec City. A lot of things to see. A lot of history. A lot of cool things to just get your hands on. Cool things to see. A lot of amazing food and so on. However, when I started spending a bit more time, once I got married, 25 years ago, had kids and whatnot, started going out to Montreal and Quebec City a lot more. I wanted my kids to see all the major cities that I possibly could get them to see, to understand a bit more about their own country. Well, in having a lot more, we'll call them private conversations with a lot of business owners in Quebec, I began to paint a picture about 20 years ago that it was very difficult to do business in Quebec based on the ridiculous taxes levied on Quebec. If you think you're taxed heavily anywhere else in Canada, people, think again. Quebec's tax system is absolutely insane. So I was listening to a lot of these conversations, and I couldn't say much more than really, wow, that's horrible. I don't know what they wanted me to do about it. at the time. I mean, I wasn't doing taxes back then. I was trying to find full-time work in a country that did not allow white-skinned Canadians to actually work. So there we go. Now that I'm doing taxes full-time and have been for 2 straight years, we get a lot of calls out of Quebec. And when people are contacting us from Quebec, I am floored at how much tax they're actually paying there. Why? Is because Quebec is exactly opposite. It does everything opposite what the rest of the country does. You'll find a lot of American companies won't even do business in Quebec anymore. And a lot of Americans will say, listen, here's what I think about Quebec. And it'll be this litany of profane words in a row, because it's not the Quebec people who are a nuisance. It's the government and the red tape and the establishment that are a complete and total nuisance. You know how everyone says if you go to Montreal, people are going to be rude to you? Maybe. No more and no less rude than Chicago or New York. There is this odd behavior that some Quebecois will pull off, and that is if you don't attempt to speak French first, they get offended. So sometimes they won't treat you as well. I mean, I had that. There's a waiter in Montreal did it to me once. Out of all the restaurants I've been to in Montreal, that happened once. And I just said, yeah, merci beaucoup, mon ami. I'm leaving, eh? And I walked out the door. If you want to treat me like a piece of crap, I don't have to spend money in your place, which means no cash for him and no tip for him, no cash for the kitchen, eh? And you don't have to sit down and eat over there where they're being rude to you once. So I never had a problem with the French people. And as I got a bit older, I'll say between the ages of 18 and 30, prior to getting married, I'll tell you this, dating French Canadian women was a whole lot easier. It was a completely different world than it was dating women from Toronto and that surrounding area. So I had a lot of fun in my teens and 20s. Well, up until about 25. And then I shot down to the United States for 4.5 years and lived there. Made a lot of money down in the States. So let's talk about some of the problems that people are having in Quebec. First, Quebec has, well, they call themselves a distinct culture, and I kind of agree with that. From the standpoint of that, even though French Canadian French is not the same as France French, because the language has not had the opportunity to evolve along with the French-speaking France. I get it. So a lot of the slang and a lot of the terminology is going to be 100 years out of date because there hasn't been exposure to France. Okay, fine. There's also a lot of English mixed in with the Francais, eh? And when you're talking to a French Canadian, what they do is they tell stories that have nothing to do with the story that you're currently telling. They'll talk about Jacques over there, eh? And it's funny. It's amusing. I'm okay with Quebec calling itself a distinct society, but the Quebec from 20 years ago, the Quebec from now is equally as bad as the Ontario from now. It just isn't the same thing. Quebec, when it had its distinct culture, I kind of agreed that it did. They had their own accent. They had their own language. They had their own way of doing things. Montreal culture was not the same as Toronto culture. Quebec City culture was not the same as Calgary culture. It's just how it is. It's cool. The whole idea of traveling, even if you're traveling inside of the same country, is to see as much as you can and learn as much as you can about as many people as you can and as many concepts and ideas as you can to improve yourself. That's how I saw it. Some people are just afraid of traveling and afraid of learning something new. I am not. But Quebec now is not doing very well financially. I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the province. I'm talking about the government and the treasury that is run by the government. So a lot of people that contact me from Quebec are not complaining. They're just telling me what the tax problems are. And the tax problems are an excessively high provincial sales tax rate. It's horrendously high. The fact that Revenu Quebec is the same as the IRS, Hitleristic, militaristic, Nazi-ish, if you will. They're absolutely out of their friggin' minds. So if you're running a business in Quebec, you're getting hit excessively hard by Quebec's taxes. And if you have a corporation in Quebec, they hit you equally and doubly hard there too. Very difficult to get ahead in that province. So let's cover a couple of things about that, because we're going to dedicate the second half of this show to questions. We're going to start talking about the intricacies here of Quebec. For those who don't understand the dynamic of Canada, Canada itself is technically not a country. It's a dominion, which acts as an administrative body, kind of controlling the affairs of 10 independent countries, which are known as provinces in Canada. So from West Coast to East Coast, you got 10 provinces. In the North, you've got 3 territories, which are owned by the Dominion of Canada. So they're property, they're not independent countries. The provinces all have their own education systems, their own court systems, their own court filing systems, their own bureaucratic nonsense, their own highway numbering systems. Everything is the same. Or sorry, everything's different. My mistake. It's not like the United States where you've got interstate highway systems. You don't. The highway, it's called 401. It connects Detroit and the Windsor border in Ontario to the border just west of Montreal at the province of Quebec. And as soon as you cross into Quebec, it goes from being Highway 401 to Highway 2. Why? Why have different numbering systems for highways? It's ridiculous. It is what it is. I can't do anything about it. Quebec, because the federal government, when it first formed Confederation or the Dominion, it knew that the Western provinces were going to have a lot of resources: potash, oil, gold, silver, gems, meat, fresh water, trees, everything. And they also knew that Quebec, because it came from a different cultural line, wasn't going to exploit natural resources as much as Western Canadians were. So Quebec, you can live a pretty lazy lifestyle there because the province of Alberta, with all the oil that it generates and sells, is actually paying what's called an equalization payment. So $540 million every year, possibly more now, leaves the province of Alberta and goes to Quebec. It's just a gift every single year. For what purpose? Well, again, so that des Québécois can live luxury, and not produce and do their natural resources too. Quebec has a lot of natural resources. They're just not mining Quebec. They're not cutting down the trees in Quebec. They're not melting ice in northern Quebec and selling it as fresh water. They're not doing anything. And there are so many open ice fields in Quebec that they could fill the place with solar cells if they chose to do so, and they're not. And Quebec right now is so bad at marketing that nobody is going to Quebec and spending their money within it. So they're pretty much relying on the province of Alberta to just send money over. Well, what happens when I become mayor of Calgary this year? I'll be pushing for Calgary to join the United States of America. Why? For economic opportunity. I want economic opportunity. I don't want Calgarians to just have to sit around and do nothing, waiting for God knows what to happen. Because when you sit around and wait, nothing happens. Nothing comes to those who wait, and patience is not a virtue. The only time that patience is a virtue is if you're a sniper. That's it. You're waiting for the best shot. Patience is a virtue. At any other time, patience in business is not a virtue. There's nothing virtuous about sitting around waiting for somebody else to do something for you. So if Alberta stays in Canada, then Alberta will be unvirtuous, sitting around waiting for nothing to happen. If Alberta leaves, and I'm hoping to get Calgary to leave first and have the province follow into the United States, that would mean Alberta becomes one of two things: a protectorate of the USA, like Guam or like American Samoa, or it becomes a state, number 51. Both are good. One would give everybody in Alberta American nationalist status, and the other would be you just get American citizenship. Fantastic. I personally would prefer national status. I don't want to be an American citizen. I'd love to be an American national. Why? Because I plan to continue traveling the world and making money all over the world and not paying tax to some central body. You think for a second I'm going to call the CRA and tell them that I make millions of dollars now? Hi, CRA. I haven't been inside of communist Canada for 20 months. I make money in Panama, and I have clients in the USA, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, and so on. And I'd like you to tax me on everything I do for 14 hours a day. Are you kidding me? The CRA gets a big fat middle finger from me every single time. So getting back to this Quebec issue is what happens when, not if, when Alberta finally grows a pair and stops giving equalization payments to Quebec. Quebec will go broke. What will Quebec do to make up the shortfall on all that money that they're not getting from the province of Alberta? They will tax the living hell out of Quebec residents and Quebec businesses. It's coming. So if you are currently running a corporation in Quebec, stick around and listen to everything I've got to say, because what is coming for Quebec is economic disaster. It is not going to recover should the equalization payments stop. But there's a way to ride out the storm and be wealthy in Quebec when the rest of the province dies off, and it will die off pretty rapidly. Let's talk about a few things here. I'm building to a crescendo of sorts, if you will. The title of tonight's show is Escape Quebec, and let's cover a couple things about Quebec, shall we? Quebec is not run under common law like the rest of Canada. It's run under civil law, all right? Or civic law, if you will. The core difference would be common law is based on two rules. Do not harm, do not threaten or damage another's property, which is where the base laws come from. So think about how simple those laws are. Don't kill, don't beat people up, don't rape, don't assault anyone, don't run over animals deliberately, right? Don't steal, right? Don't defame, don't commit wire fraud. Like, these are don'ts. Don't cause harm. And if we all live by those simple principles, society would be a pretty good place. We don't live by those simple principles anymore. And the reason being is because there's a severe lack of education. When people are severely undereducated, they are severely deprived of opportunities to think their way into success. So with the low IQs that we now have in Canada, with immigration and with a bad education system, fewer people are taking advantage of anything because they have nothing to take advantage of. Low IQ people work crap jobs and they're angry about it and they don't know why. And I'm telling all of you out there, it's because of our education that people just don't have opportunity. They have not been taught a damn thing of value. The civil law, which is used in the entire province of Quebec, is based on very detailed codes, detailed permits, and thick legislation. It assumes people need control and direction. Now, how many of you out there running a business think that you need someone coming into your company and not suggesting how to do things better, but demanding you do things this way under penalty of fines or shutdown? And if you do it this way, you lose money. It gets worse. And you're miserable because it's worse. And that's the problem with civil law, is that if you've got really bad leadership in place, which is everywhere in Canada, I might add, then you're going to have all kinds of restrictions and demands put on you that hurt you. They don't help you in any particular way. And Paul Cormier says, mafia with a question mark. Yeah, Paul, it's exactly what it is. The province of Quebec is operating like the mafia, utilizing civil law to take whatever it wants, whenever it wants, which is why you've got the high taxes in Quebec. So with that in place, based on detailed codes, permits, and legislation, and assumes people need control and direction, the province of Quebec, unlike the rest of Canada, is going to put down so many rules and taxes on you that you are going to fail from the first day you open your business. That's just how it is. And what has that led to? Well, it's led to high taxes. We're going to cover that in a second, but I'd like to be a little bit more political just right now. I know this is not supposed to be a political show, but you need to understand the politics behind what I'm saying here. In common law, you're free to act without asking permission. That is potent stuff. What does that mean? Well, you're free to get married to whoever you want, so long as they're consenting. You're free to have children with that person whenever you want, so long as the two of you are consenting. You are allowed to open up a business and run it any way you want within the confines of common law to make money. You do it your way. It's your baby. It's your business. You You run the business the way you see fit to do so, and you reap the rewards if you do it right, and you reap the penalties if you do it wrong. Well, you're innocent until proven guilty. That's the way it's supposed to be in common law. And one of the problems with Quebec being under civic law, and the province of Ontario is beginning to follow this, is what is called the administrative penalty program. So if you get a speeding ticket or a parking ticket or a drinking ticket or a noise ordinance ticket, you're guilty. Doesn't matter, you're guilty. It's called administrative penalty. You're not allowed to take that to court. Isn't that bizarre? It's bizarre. Ontario's starting to do the exact same thing, where if you get a speeding ticket or a parking ticket and you want to fight it, you go and see some foreign piece of trash working at some courthouse, and they're not a judge. They're just a guy. They're going to say, yeah, you know what? The notes of the guy that wrote the ticket are pretty sound. We're going to go ahead and make you pay for this ticket. The only way to fight a ticket like that in civic law is to sue the individual guy who wrote the ticket and the province. Now, at that point, they'll probably drop the ticket. But why is it that you can't take a ticket to court and argue it? Well, it's because civic law is all about making money and telling you that we will make more money if we tell you that you are guilty until proven innocent, which is what the administrative penalty system in Canada is all about. And Quebec is the worst one for the administrative penalty system. Now, in common law, you also accept full responsibility for your own actions. Yeah, that makes sense. If I get into a fight and I beat some guy up and he dies, I should go to jail for manslaughter. That's right. If I steal your car, I should go to jail for theft over $5,000. If I phone you at 3:00 in the morning and threaten you and your family's lives, I should go to jail for intimidation, possibly even stalking. These are things, yeah, I should be held accountable for that. And at the same time, accountability, it goes both ways, everybody. All right. So if I treat people well and I run my business within the confines of the law, and I'm really good at marketing and I'm really good at customer service, then the benefits are I win. I'm responsible for my actions, and the responsibility that I've taken for my actions has made me money. Nothing wrong with that. And I'd like to be held accountable for my own actions. And I even made a video about that today, downtown Panama City. We were filming a penthouse that was under construction right now, and there's wires hanging everywhere. And I went into the place without a hard hat on. Nobody made me put on a hard hat. I was just told in advance, if I get hurt, it's on me. I said, no problem. I got a big mouth and I'm trying to sell this condo. So I chose to not wear that hard hat. If I hit my head, I'm accountable for that action. And then I would then have to go to the hospital and I would have to pay for stitches. Okay. So I want to be in a system, unlike Quebec, where I am accountable for my actions, but I also reap the rewards of them. I want to be able to take big risks, because with big risk comes big reward. That's the life I want to lead. And you can't do that under civic law, which is what Quebec is run by. So in civil law or civic law, you often need licenses and permits. Oh yeah, you need permits for everything in Quebec. It is lunacy. Every single solitary thing you want to do, you got to talk to somebody in the Quebec government and get a license or a permit or a certificate for it. It is absolutely crazy. And also, it assumes guilt first. We just talked about that. So in civil law, you are always assumed to be guilty. You're accused of something, you're guilty. That's it. You're guilty. The trial is for show because they've already made their mind up. This is how it is. And so in Quebec, what happens is that you need, if you're getting into some kind of spat with a neighbor or some kind of spat with somebody at work, you actually got to go to the cops and be the first one to complain. That makes them guilty and you innocent. Isn't that stupid? That's like civic law brings out the worst in people. It never brings out the best. It brings out the worst. So if you ever wonder why everybody in Quebec is stressed out all the time, it's because the stupid law system that they're under. It is positively ridiculous. Alrighty. In civil law, your freedoms are limited. Your responsibility and liability are kind of limited, but at the same time, you have more liability than you do benefits. That's another huge problem in civic law in Quebec. A lot of my clients are under so many fines for not getting permits. They're under so many strains and whatnot that they're sometimes they're on the phone crying with me, and I'm not making fun of them for that. I legitimately feel very bad for these people who just want to work. They want to go to work, run their business at work, and make some money, and then go home with their families and be left alone. But you can't be left alone in a civic system. There's always some jerk that wants to show up at your office and tell you that you're doing something wrong, and here's a ticket, and you can't fight it in court. Quebec does this. In every major city in the province of Quebec, there are losers. They call themselves enforcement officers. They're not officers. They are losers. And they walk into all these businesses and they're writing tickets for anything. You know, your door is too tall. The windows are open too wide. Your French sign is not literally double the size of your English sign. Ticket, 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 fine, ticket. You can't make money. Absolutely cannot make money. So, Quebec, keep listening. I'm going to finish the education. And everybody in Quebec who wants to start making some money, I'm going to tell you how to become millionaires in about 30 minutes. Okay? So stick around. There's more education here. Next, to go through a few things here, how each system sees people. So in common law, the belief is that people are naturally good and will act responsibly if they are taught well. Okay, there's very little to argue with in that particular philosophy. I mean, in grade school, well, let's go back to junior kindergarten. You know, if you threw something at another kid, you got a spank. Like, they actually gave us the strap and the wooden spoon in the ass back then as kids. So if you hit a kid, you got the strap or the spoon. If you push the kid down, you got the strap or the spoon. If you peed all over the floor, you got the strap or the spoon. And then your parents got called, and your parents did it too. So we were teaching our kids not to misbehave. So by the time we got to middle school, we had some semblance of manners, some capacity to comprehend that being nice was the right thing to do and was much better for society than being a complete jerk, right? We had these rules pounded into us for a reason. And if our society is going to be educated in that fashion, and we all continue teaching our kids in that fashion, then yes, in common law, the people are generally going to be good. Now, I also do believe that statement because I have traveled to quite a few countries out there. And I find that the average person, and even the not so average person out there, which represents the majority, average people represent the majority, everybody is pleasant enough. People want to wake up, have breakfast, kiss their kids goodbye, go to work, come home, be with their families. Like that, those expectations, there's nothing to be ashamed of with that. Those are good expectations. And most people I come across are like that. Even when I was living in the slums of New York and Chicago and Biloxi, and I've been to all the slums all over Costa Rica and Panama, people just want to live life, right? There's a very small percentage of the population who gets off on being cruel. There's not a lot of those around. So common law is something that I agree with from that particular philosophical viewpoint. But, you know, not to be outdone, here's civil law. Civil law believes people are naturally bad and need many rules to control their actions. Okay, so do you need control? Is anybody watching this show right now? Let's just make up some silly scenarios right here, right now. But do any of you feel that you need someone else to come into your home and tell you the right way to do dishes? Do you need someone coming into your home and putting on a white glove and rubbing their finger on everything inside your house to tell you that you don't know how to dust well? And by the way, here's how you dust. And here's a ticket. Are anybody out there watching this show in desperate need of someone to judge for you what you should be able to watch or read or consume? Do any of you out there feel that you need somebody to teach you everything that you already know? And the answer, of course, is no. I don't think anybody watching this show right now would ever agree with that particular standpoint. No, I don't want anyone telling me what to do. I don't want anyone barking commands at me. And I certainly don't want anybody telling me I'm going to get a ticket because I'm not doing things their way. The common law grants you the capacity to be left alone. Civic law or civil law does not. Civil law is always under the assumption that you are doing something wrong and that you are a bad person and that your behavior needs correction. That's what it is. And none of us really need correction. I'm a pretty polite guy. No one needs to teach me how to pee in the toilet bowl and not get it on the floor. And certainly nobody needs to tell me how to put on a shirt and tie and impress the people I'm going to go and hang out with at a wedding. Nobody needs to smack me in the back of the head and tell me to open the door for someone and keep it open until everybody's come through. These are things that I do on my own because I believe them to be the right thing to do. But you know what? So do all of you. Everybody watching right now, we're all on that common ground. In Quebec, the way the government functions there, they don't see it that way. They don't think any of you in Quebec have the right to go unmolested during your day. And that's why the taxes in Quebec are so over the top, ridiculously high. It's bad. All right, let's get on to the next slide here. All righty. Next slide. So here's some of the real life impact. Under common law, you are empowered to do whatever you wish within the confines of the law, but you are held accountable. Well, I like that plan. Let's say, for example, I want to go to the gym and get stronger, and I work out too much, and I lift too much weight that I'm not ready for. The consequences of my actions are I'll be in bed for 3 days, grunting like an old man. I'm being held accountable by my own physiology. If I decide to go out of my way to make money and I decide to take a lot of shortcuts and start breaking the law and buying and selling stolen goods and whatnot, if I get caught, I'll be held accountable. I will be arrested, probably not get bail, and end up getting into a trial date 6 or 7 months down the road. Possibly end up with a criminal record. I should be held accountable for actions like that. In fact, I want to be held accountable for my actions. Under no circumstances do I have any need whatsoever to walk around like a criminal, beating people up and throwing things on the floor and just generally behaving like a jerk. No interest. And besides, those activities don't make money. That's the other thing we have to look at. So getting back to that slide, under civil law, you follow procedures, but you avoid liability. Now, that's a complicated one to explain. Quebec will give you a ton of procedures, an absolute ton, and they'll fine you if you don't get it right. But what happens in civic law is, let's say, for example, in Quebec, and this is where it becomes a complete oxymoron. And this is why I'm always scratching my head thinking, how? How does this happen? But in Quebec, you could run a business where you are absolutely ripping off every single human being across the country. And so long as you're not ripping off anybody inside of Quebec, you get caught, you get arrested. What you'll do is you'll shut that corporation down and open up another one with the exact same name the very next day and go right back to doing business as if nothing happened. Weird, huh? You'll get a fine for not having your French signs being big enough on your building, but you won't even do jail time if you're ripping off Ontarians or British Columbians or otherwise. And you can shut a highly liable company down and open another one. Same name, same address, same website, same phone number, same contract, same business cards. That's civic law. So if you ever wonder why El Mafioso in the day, and there's been many, many movies made about the Montreal Mafia and so on, why did they select Quebec? Because Quebec's laws allowed them to rip off everybody in New York and Maine and the maritime provinces, Ontario and so on, and bring all their stolen goods into Quebec, and they never got penalized for it. Unless the sign on their front business wasn't big enough in French. All right. So how does somebody keep up with all of this? How does anybody actually fully comprehend laws like this or structures like this? So most Canadians unknowingly operate under civil law, thinking asking permission for things that they may not need to. That's right. It's incredible how many, you're right. That is actually correct. You see, with Quebec being the only province to be under civil law and the rest of the country being under common law, everybody in Canada actually thinks they're under civil law, but they don't even know what that means. So Canadians think you've got to ask permission for positively everything. Everything. I mean, how often have you had a Canadian tell you, you can't walk through the park? The sign says 11 p.m. the park closes. Okay, you know what that means? It means loud parties are over at 11 o'clock. It doesn't mean the park is closed. Like Lord knows how many towns and cities there are right across Canada where you have to walk through a park to get from one part of town to the other. There's places like that everywhere. So the 11 p.m. park closure sign is a suggestion for those to state, hey, could you not play loud music in the park after 11? Thank you. But Canadians will argue and fight with each other. I mean, look at my TikTok comments, for God's sakes. There are so many Canadians that will state, when I'm telling you that you don't have to pay income tax in Canada, they'll say, you have to pay your taxes, people, because. And I'll challenge them. Why? Here, let's do it philosophically, right? Why do you have to pay taxes? Never get an answer. They just assume that you need permission in life to not pay tax. That's the assumption. It's actually quite frightening. It's called fear, everybody. It's how institutions like the Canada Revenue Agency and the governments in general control you. You always think you're breaking the law. It's a strange phenomenon, and it's not one that I respect, not in any way at all. So what I wanted to tell all of you out there is that you need to understand that if you're in Quebec, you're under civil law. If you're anywhere else in the country, you're not. So you do not, in any circumstance, need to think that you're constantly under the watch of anybody, because you're not. And you don't need to ask permission from anybody to live your life, to run your business. So long as you're working under essentially the confines of criminal law, you're going to be fine. Don't break criminal law. Everything's going to be okay. Getting back to the slide here, with most Canadians unknowingly operating under civil law, believing that they have to ask permission. You know what you are when you do that, people? You're in your own way. That's what you are. You're in your own way. You are stopping you from expanding or exceeding your own limitations. You're stopping you from making money, because if you think that everything is against the rules, then how would you ever succeed? When I do my private consultations with clients of mine and I tell them a lot more detailed stuff than what I'm telling you on the show right now, they're floored. And they doubt me at first, which is okay. You should doubt everything that you hear. But I also do highly recommend that if you're going to doubt what I'm saying, please do look it up. But look it up under case law, where decisions have been made by judges. Don't ask friends, because friends don't know anything. Don't ask moms and dads and relatives. They know nothing. All right? Just don't do that. If I go to the actual court files and find out for yourself what everything is. All right? So we want to make sure that you get out of your own way, you stop fearing everything, and we understand some very basic principles here. That with me doing a tax show, when I tell you that paying your income tax and even reporting it in the first place is voluntary, I have no reason to lie to you at all. And I'm not bringing forward the free man on the land argument, where you don't need a driver's license to drive. You don't need a hunting license to hunt. You don't need an airplane license or a pilot's license to fly. Okay, philosophically, that might be true. But within the confines of the current laws, it's not true. I'm not going to tell you to go to the CRA and pull some kind of massacre. I would never tell you that. But I am going to tell you that when the CRA gives you a difficult time, contact me and I'll give them a difficult time, and we'll save you as much money as possible, because the law states that I'm allowed to negotiate on your behalf. And I can even be rude and callous and even racist when I talk to these people. I can irritate the hell out of them because the law dictates I can't. I cannot threaten them with physical violence, but I can certainly threaten them with putting their names on the do not fly list in the USA. I can do that. I can certainly create a website with their face on it, because so many of them have public profiles out there. I can do whatever it takes to ensure that they are viewed by the public in as vile a way as possible. I can do that. And I can threaten them with that, and I often do. If they want to threaten all of us with court action, which they don't do, I'll threaten them with court action, which I will do. All right. So in the province of Quebec, you've got this ridiculous sales tax. So, Quebec, how do we word this, everybody? If it's done anywhere else in the country, they will do the exact opposite. Now, I'm not talking about the people of Quebec. I'm talking about the government of Quebec. All right. So if you want to talk about sales tax, for example. So Quebec right now has almost 15%. It's 14.975% sales tax. Why? Because there's a 5% goods and services tax in Canada on everything. Haircuts, books, bottled water, can of Coke, food, whatever it might be. And in Quebec, they add 9.975% to every single retail bill. No matter, restaurants, gas, alcohol, you name it, it's taxed. That's high. And on top of that, they hit corporations with separate taxes that the rest of the country doesn't get hit with. And that is what's absolutely bankrupting and completely annihilating all Quebec businesses, more so than any other province. So everyone, and please everybody, hold your questions. I will be addressing questions in about 20 minutes. I got to get through my Quebec presentation. So what is the solution for Quebecois? What is the solution? Okay, this is what we do. We got a brand new service. It started last week. You're going to love this, and Revenue Quebec is going to hate this, and I don't care. I'm not here to be liked by the Canadian government. In fact, the more that I am hated by all the losers who work for the Canadian government, the happier man I am. And that comes from the heart, everyone. If you are a Quebecer, what you do is you contact me on my website. And what we're going to do is we're going to change your residency. That's correct. You're no longer going to carry a Quebec driver's license. Why would you do that? If you have a Quebec driver's license, well, that Quebec driver's license now ties you to Quebec taxes, which means when you do personal taxes in Quebec, you are going to be paying the Revenue Quebec, that agency, more money than you should. So the first thing we do is we turn you into a Quebec resident. Guess what I did in Ontario, everybody? I bought a house. It's not the best house in the world. It's not the worst house in the world. But now what we do here is you will live in my house. That's right. So if you feel like having an Ontario address, if you live anywhere in the country, or you're just trying to dodge an ex-wife or an ex-husband or whoever else, you can live in my house. You can change your driver's license to my house, to my home address. Here's why I did this. Canadians know nothing about business. Nothing. Americans know everything about business. And something that I love in Canada is not much. It's just not much. What I love about the United States, however, is that the Americans want to make money. The business of America is business. And they get the fact that if you offer a service, if you build it, they will come. I have a lawyer in the United States, and for a paltry fee, that lawyer now has given me an address in the USA where all my mail can go. And that address is not a post office box. That address is the lawyer's actual office address. That's right. So my mail anywhere in the world goes to the USA. My lawyer's secretaries, they open my mail, they scan my mail, they upload it to their server. I get an email from their website saying, dude, you got mail. So I read it. And as soon as I open that mail, they get an indication at their end that I've read it, and they shred my mail. They can have it. Let's just check. I really want that. All right. They shred it. It's a service, and it's a good service. I called hundreds of law firms in Canada. Hey, everybody, can I give you some money? I need to use your address. I desperately would love to get my hands on an address that's not mine. And I don't want it to be a P.O. box because the banks won't deal with P.O. boxes. And now the banks and all the lending companies out there, they know the addresses of every UPS store and every FedEx store and every mailbox ETC store and every private mailbox out. They know them all. So how do we combat that? Buy a house. I bought a house. And I've got this really interesting group of people that work there 24 hours a day. Mail goes to the house. They open the mail. They scan it in. They upload it to our server. You get an email saying, you got some mail, man. And you just read it online. And once a week, the shredded truck comes over and we go drop it in the shredded truck, which goes, have you ever seen their trucks? The company called Shredded? You throw a whole box of paper into the truck and it turns the whole box and the paper into mincemeat in no time. That's what we do. That's what we do. We do now in the province of Ontario what I could not get any law firm in the country to do. Not one wanted to do this job. So I'm doing it. Now, what does that mean for you in Quebec, everybody? It means that you now live at my house with me. You can't sleep in my bed, but you live at my house. And when you live in my house now, that is your residency. And that residency, now being an Ontario residency, gets you out of having to pay Revenue Quebec, those ridiculous taxes that they want from you. Your driver's license that you're going to go, just go to Ottawa, go to Cornwall, go to any city that's close to the Quebec border, get your Ontario license, and now you live at my house. And if anybody out there is looking to do the same thing in Canada, I don't care what province you're in. I don't even care if you're in Ontario. If you need somewhere for your mail to go, where you know you can never go to the mailbox and open it up and pull mail out, send it to our place. We will open it. We will scan it. And if you want, you can buy a premium package. We'll keep it for you and ship it back to you. Or we shred it. Now, how's that? How's that for amazing? Which means also, you lovely people in Quebec who are struggling and whatnot, we're going to register a corporation for you in Ontario, and you're going to have the Ontario HST number. You're going to use my address as your corporate address, and you're going to do business in Quebec, but run every single invoice through Ontario. Now you don't have to deal with Revenue Quebec anymore. Now you're going to make some money, and now you can sell me your Quebec corporation, and I'll take it off your hands, and all of the debt that you've accrued because of Revenue Quebec and the Canada Revenue Agency, you get to start over from zero, and now you're going to get rich. And something that makes a lot of money in Quebec right now, the trucking industry in Quebec makes huge dollars. So why would you want to be running a corporation inside of Quebec where the company is registered to Quebec? It's great to be inside Quebec. It's amazing. It's not amazing to be reporting taxes inside of Quebec. There's your solution for all of you lovely people in Quebec. You can stay where you are. You can live there and work there, but you're going to be working off of Ontario corporations that we set up for you, and your corporation and your residential address is going to be my house. My house. You can live with me in my house. There we go. I'm in business to make money. And I've been called many times an opportunist. I am. I absolutely am. I mean, an opportunist would be something along the lines of, let's just say, for example, there was a dog collar lying on the ground and Justin Trudeau was bleeding to death on the ground. I would definitely be an opportunist and grab that dog collar and put it on his neck and just drag him to the hospital. That's what I would do. I mean, he'd be getting treatment for whatever injury he had prior to me getting there, plus all the scuffing of all of his skin when I drag him there. That's what an opportunist would do. Well, an opportunist in Canada sees a huge gap in the service industry and something that is required. And what is required is for people to be able to have a residential address so that when bankers and lenders and whoever else Googles the address, it's a real house. It's not a mailboxes, etc. All right. So that is why I did this. And for all the law firms out there who just simply did not want to do this, you're idiots. But thank you for not doing it, because the odds are pretty good. I'm going to make between 7 and 10 million bucks a year offering this service. So thank you to all the law firms in Canada for being short-sighted, pathetic, and absolutely clueless when it comes to business. I am not. I will take every opportunity whatsoever to make my customers happy, to make sure that my client base makes money, and to make sure that I make money, all within the confines of, what did I say earlier? Criminal law. I'm not going to break criminal law. I've got no reason to. None whatsoever. And none of you do either. You just don't. Now, what I was told by my criminal lawyer when I said, hey, listen, can we buy Quebec corporations and move Quebecois into Ontario corporations? And he goes, yeah, of course you can. There's nothing illegal about that. So I asked him, which is what I always ask him, find a way to make that illegal. Come back to me stating that you found one little way to make what I'm saying illegal, or making what I want to do illegal. And he always comes back saying, no, there's no case law on this. There's no law that you're breaking by helping a Quebec-based client, or any province for that matter, move their money and their business into a different province. Because the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada guarantees that you can travel anywhere you want, anytime you want, and you can work anywhere you want, anytime you want. And since the rest of the country, aside from Quebec, is run under common law, you can open any business you want and run it any way you want. Absolutely, you can. You can do all of these things any which way you wish to do. Now, there was kind of a funny theme. I didn't especially care for the movie Men in Black, but it's a sci-fi movie where you've got these guys that hunt aliens hiding on Earth and whatnot. It's the wrong one. It was RIPD. My mistake. I'm sorry. It's RIPD, where there's dead police policing dead people. That's what it was. Okay, so they take an elevator up from hell into a VCR repair store, right? And on the outside of the wall, it says repair VCRs 99 cents. Okay, so the main characters are just bantering back and forth about the fact that why would you hide a gateway to hell in a VCR repair shop? And Jeff Bridges' character asks, when was the last time you ever got a VCR repaired or even seen one? You're right. So, I mean, if you're a millionaire, you could play pranks on the public and you could sell 8-track cassettes if you wanted to. You'd lose money, but you are allowed to do that under common law. And under civic law, they would stop you from doing that, telling you that you would not make money. We're not going to let you do these things. Revenue Quebec would like Quebecers to believe that you cannot do business in corporations registered elsewhere inside the country. That's not true. Their civic law grasp on you is not that powerful. They cannot interfere with the Charter or the Constitution, at least not yet. Should they separate, believe me, Quebec will do as much as they can. So getting back to what I said earlier in the show, I'm coming full circle now with everything I wanted to present to you about Quebec. The province of Alberta is completely and totally funding the province of Quebec with equalization payments. Hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars, billions plural over the years. And should Alberta join the USA as a state or protectorate, those equalization payments to Quebec are going to stop in a day. Now imagine going from $580 million a year being handed over to you, and then it just gets cut off on one day, just gone. Where would Quebec, considering the fact that all of its industry has left, considering the fact that tourism is down to half of what it was 20 years ago, and considering the fact that they haven't built any industry worth talking about, where would they make their money? By taxing Quebecers. That's the only way. I'll guarantee you right now that provincial sales tax will go to 20% if the equalization payments stop. You need to do what I'm telling you to do now. If you run a corporation in Quebec, you need to do this now. You need to change your driver's license to Ontario. I'll guide you through the process. You need to register a corporation in Quebec. I'll do that for you. We'll get you the HST number. We'll get you the corporation. We'll get you the corporate bylaws. We will get you everything that you need for that. And you're going to live and register your business to my house, my house, my house, the one I bought specifically for this purpose. And that is to protect my clients all over the country. For anybody who needs protection from the Quebec government, or right now even British Columbia is getting crazy, let me know. I'm here to make sure that anybody who's making money in Quebec gets to keep that money. All right, that is what I want to do. I want to be rich, which I am well on my way. But I want all of you to be rich too. I love it when people are wealthy, because wealthy people have fewer stresses. People who have fewer stresses are happier. Happier people don't commit crimes. When you have a society with happy people making money, the crime rate goes down. The violent crime rate drops to almost zero. Manners. There are more people with good manners in a society where everybody is making more money. That is what I want, by the way. I want that. And the only way for any of you out there in Canada to become wealthy is to not pay tax in Canada. And I happen to be the #1 tax guy in Canada. I am the only in the entire country that when I do your taxes, I swear them in to the courts, and I write down on that sworn statement to the courts that I am taking full accountability for the entire tax return. Every other accountant in Canada will say that they've done your taxes, but they cannot and will not be held accountable for what they've done. I am accountable for everything I do. I have no problem whatsoever taking full accountability for the taxes that I do for you, so that you need not be bothered or troubled by the CRA after I submit your tax returns or your corporate tax returns on your behalf to them. Accountability. I'm not going to sit there and say that that's the one thing that makes me better. It's not the one thing that makes me better than accountants. It's just one of the things that makes me better than accountants across the country. The other thing is I'm not afraid of the CRA. I don't care what they threaten me with. I've read every single scrap of paper to do with tax law in Canada. And I've drawn this simple conclusion. There's not one single solitary law that says you got to pay tax. The CRA has no power. And if they decide they want to come to my office and say, we want to see your taxes, you know what I might do? I might let them in. And then I may accidentally throw boiling water in their face just for kicks. I'm done putting up with any type of individual who says, I work for the government and you're going to do what I say. I posed a very funny question to my lawyer because, again, I don't do anything without first checking with him. So let me tell you the question I asked my lawyer this morning. I asked him, are there any laws in Canada currently that would consider firing a laser pointer into someone's eyes a crime? He's laughing. Like, what are you up to now, Kevin? So just humor me. So he called me about 4 hours ago and told me that so far it's not, but he's going to do some more digging for me on this to make sure that it's truly not a crime to do so. So then I said, okay, well, here's my thought. My thoughts are, because auditors have absolutely no authority whatsoever, we could show the world how little power Canadian tax auditors have by having our clients who are getting audited to have the auditors come to their office and make the auditors sit in a room by themselves for 30 minutes or so, and then walk in the room with a full 1 or 2 watt, not milliwatt, but watt laser pointers, and fire those pointers into the eyeballs of those CRA reps. Like, just have some fun. Ask them, hey, you want to play Star Wars? Woo! Is that like a 1 or 2 watt laser would blind you. It'll actually slice your retina. It'll burn it right open. You won't be able to see. You'll have like a blind spot that's a line right across your eye. That's not a joke. It will happen. So I said to my lawyer, what I would like to do is have people do this and buy the film footage. They got to film this and buy their film footage from them for $5,000. What do you say? Is that legal? He says, okay, first off, it's legal to buy any film footage that you want. Okay, that part's great. And it's legal for someone to allow the CRA to come into their office, even if they have no intentions of cooperating with the CRA, which you do not do. The laser in the eyes is hilarious. He's going to get back to me. Okay? So think about that, everybody. If it's legal to fire a laser into the eyes of these representatives, we are going to then form a little conglomerate army here and start to do this type of thing. And the reason that we're going to do this type of thing is to show force against the CRA and make them question the safety of them going to anyone's office at any time. You see, right now, the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, they are operating under the assumption that they have Crown immunity. Now, what does that mean in Canada? Because the King of England is still the King of Canada. That's how that works. The crown is what he wears. So the Crown has granted immunity to government officials when they are working within the capacity to do their job. So it's actually not illegal for a parking ticket loser, not officer, loser, to write parking tickets. That's not illegal. But if they're doing it maliciously, like following you around and then continuing to do so, that actually is a crime. Stalking and malicious prosecution, completely different things. Giving you the ticket and walking away and never seeing you again, not a crime. Following you around and giving you multiple tickets because they can, absolutely is a crime. So with the CRA, they're belligerents. When they threaten you, that's intimidation and uttering threats. When they just show up at your place, that's trespassing. If they tell you they have to come in and they can't present a warrant or a court order, and then they barge in, it's break and enter and assault. These are all the crimes the CRA commits on a regular basis. And they think that they can do all this. They think that Crown immunity allows them to commit crimes. It doesn't. Do you know where it protects them? Is if I sue the CRA and the individual representative from the CRA, then the person's protected, but only protected from the standpoint that the CRA will pay for the lawyer. That's it. And the lawyer is supplied by the Department of Justice. And the Department of Justice bills the CRA for their time. All right. But if I sue the CRA representative and not the CRA, I just sue them, they have no immunity. The government's not going to pay for their lawyer because they're getting sued personally. And if a CRA representative utters the threat, like, if you don't do your taxes right now, I'm going to take your kids from you. Well, that's conspiracy to kidnap, uttering threats and intimidation. That's like 10 years in jail. So there will be no immunity for the CRA when they do these things. So when the CRA shows up at your place, they don't have any immunity whatsoever. Nothing. And if you accidentally I'm so sorry, I fired a laser into your eye. Sorry. Is that a crime? We don't know yet. If it's not a crime, then I want all of you to invite auditors to your businesses and film this. Like, just keep the have 3 or 4 people filming so we get every camera angle imaginable, and get me all the raw footage, and I'm going to give you $5,000. So stay tuned. We want to make sure this is legal, but we all need to do these types of silly things to show solidarity against these government institutions, Revenue Quebec, Revenue Canada, or anyone else to do so. I'm going to take questions now from all the chat rooms. First question here, Shadow Warrior says, we don't wait until the end of April to pay your taxes. If you don't owe taxes, and if I'm your tax guy, you're not going to owe taxes. It doesn't matter what month you send them in. They can only put penalties on an amount owed. If you owe nothing, don't worry about it. Tonto says, too busy talking, can't answer questions. Okay, well, I'm taking questions now. Guy, anybody who's watched this show for a while, you all know the second half of the show is reserved for questions. So fire away. will answer. Okay, keep looking at some questions here. Sean says he needs my service. Anybody that needs to get a hold of me, don't DM me on social media. Contact me on my website, KevinJJohnston.com, please. I'm just going to check the questions here. We've got questions. Kevin, I know someone who's going to be audited. The person is going bankrupt. I told him he doesn't have to go through the audit nor the bankruptcy. Is this correct? Well, yes, it is. Bankruptcy is always the final option. It's the last thing that we do. It's never the first thing. It is incredible how many people out there will tell good friends, just go bankrupt. No, don't go bankrupt. Let's see first what the actual issues are. Let's see what we can fix. And then let's redo your taxes and get you some money back. Don't listen to friends who say, just go bankrupt. Just go bankrupt. Or do a consumer proposal. Don't do that. Remember 5 episodes ago? Remember the gentleman that we had join us on the show and explained just how bad a consumer proposal really is? Consumer proposals are horrible, and bankruptcies are not always the answer because you don't always get rid of every single debt. Bankruptcy trustees don't work for you. They work for the CRA and your creditors. I work for you, so let me look at your files and tell you if bankruptcy is the right thing to do. And so far this year, it has not been for anyone. We've been able to fix their taxes, and I've been able to guide them through proper financial advice on how to solve their financial problems. Leo says, why am I being garnished and forced to pay? All right, that's a good question. Garnishment orders. This is when the Canada Revenue Agency decides they want some money from you, for whatever their reason. And what they'll do is they send a requirement to pay letter to your employer. It never shows up with a court order. What they do is they quote the Income Tax Act and the Excise Tax Act and so on. We don't work for the CRA. So the Income Tax Act does not pertain to anyone who doesn't work for the CRA. And the employers, they always look at these letters because the letter says, if you don't pay us, we may audit you. May, not will, may. Now, if your employer had a brain in his head and a single testicle in his sack, which no employer has anymore, they would get on the phone with the auditor right away and ask, who the hell do you think you are threatening me? You will never threaten me again. And unless you get a court order, I'm not giving you anything from my staff. That's all. You see, what happens is, according to Chapter 10 of the Auditor's Handbook, is as soon as something becomes hostile, as soon as someone raises their voice, it's hostile. The auditor has to drop the file and transfer it to their team leader. You could be hostile with them too. So here's the deal, everybody. It's not the CRA that takes your paycheck money. It's your boss who's a coward and steals it from you and gives it to the CRA. Sue your boss. File criminal charges against your boss for conspiracy and theft. Sue them for breach of contract. Absolutely. Anybody who's emailing me on my website, that is the only way to reach me. I'm telling everyone now, you will never reach me on social media. I don't have time. Every single time that I log into TikTok, I've got over 1,000 comments every single day. How could I possibly read that many comments? So if you're looking for service, here's the deal. If we're going to do business together, you got to show me that you're interested in doing business. I'm not chasing you. I don't make cold calls to anybody. I don't sell to anyone. People contact me and they do it through my website. It is the only way to reach me. Why? Is because I have filtered my entire company through the website. I've got all my staff who are checking the emails on the website every minute of every day for about 14 hours a day. We don't have the time or the manpower to go through all the comments in social media. So you need to prove to me that you want to hire me by bypassing the easy route, which is the social media comments section. Don't go to my DMs because I don't have time for those either. Go to my website and use the contact form. Somebody will get back to you from the contact form. I don't make comments on people's videos. If I want to do business with somebody, I go straight to their profile. I will send a DM just in case they check their DMs. I will then find their website. I'll go to their website and I'll use their contact form. And there are some people out there that do business that I want to do business with on TikTok, and it costs $5 to send them a message online. Okay, I pay the $5. If I want to do business with them, I will hunt them down and tell them, I want to do business. I'm not a tire kicker. I want to pay you for your services. That is how I do things. And it's kind of a covenant that we all need to have with each other. And that's the covenant that I'm going to ask all of you to join up with me on, to hunt me down at my website. It's in the bio. If you're on Rumble, it's right here. If you're on Instagram over here, it's in my bio. If you're on Kick, it's in my bio. The link is there. Click it. Find me. Use the contact form. Let's do some business. And Bindi says, hello, handsome. I hope you had a great Easter. Now, you see, that's a lady who knows how to charm a man. Mwah. Thank you. I hope you had one too. Can a person refuse to do taxes? Well, yeah. But as I've told you all before, if you don't feel like doing taxes or wasting your time going through numbers, grab a form off the CRA's website, put your name on it, social insurance number on it, sign the bottom of it, and then just mail it in. That's it. You're not obligated to put numbers on it. They just want the return. So if you send them a blank return with your name and social insurance number, don't put numbers on. Don't put zero. Put nothing on it and send that in. Enzo says, I'm in the beauty business. Okay, what would you like to know? Let me know there. Do you have to report income to the CRA from the United States? No. They say you do, but they don't have any laws that say that you do. There's no law that says you must report income. In fact, let's cover this. There is no law in Canada that states that you have to report rental properties, rental property income, crypto income, bank interest, currency that you're holding elsewhere, money you made in the United States or anywhere else in the world, money you've made from selling your own personal property, money that you made gambling, money that you made through prostitution. You don't have to report any of that. I don't recommend being a prostitute, but I'm saying you don't have to pay that tax either. None of it. Don't report it. Why? It's none of their business. There's not a single law that says you have to report these things. Remember what I've told you every single show. Taxes, reporting, it's a voluntary thing, pretty much. I'm just having a quick peek at some of the comments here in Rumble. All righty. Yeah, Nathan, I see you there. No problem. I can take care of that for you. All right. And people are asking me how much I paid for the house that we're utilizing for this new service that I'm offering. I'll tell everybody who asks that question the same thing I'll tell the CRA. None of your effing business. Yeah, there you go. None of your business. I'm very good at saying that, by the way. None of your business. Can you put a hobby farm into a trust? Yes, Cheryl, but trusts are expensive. They're about $40,000 to set up if you set them up properly. What I would do instead is register a numbered corporation for you. I would write really solid corporate bylaws for you, move the farm into the numbered corporation, and then make sure those corporate bylaws dictate who gets your shares when you die. And then when you die, the shares transfer, but there's no probate and taxes on the property because the property is already owned by the corporation, period. Toronto shop was shut down, but they said they, sorry, Enzo, I'm not understanding that statement. Could you rephrase it, please? How would the CRA find out if you made rental income? Because you and you and you and you told them. That's the only way. They know nothing until you call them and say, hi, I bought a house, please charge me tax. Or you fill it out on your tax return, I've got a rental property. I'm going to pay tax. Why do all of you in Canada think you have to do what you're told? Why is that? Do what you're told, nor else. You know, I remember believing I had to do what I was told when I was a kid. But do you know why I believe that? Is because if I didn't do what I was told by my father, I got the strap in the face and the ass. If I didn't do what I was told in school, I got the strap in the face and the ass. And if I didn't do what I was told by guys that were 3 times my size, I got the crap beat out of me. That's me as a kid. So I would do what I was told to avoid physical pain and physical punishment and possible injury. And yeah, you know what? My dad slapped me in the face so hard one day because I spilled pop in his car that my jaw came out of its socket. Yes. So I did what I was told only for that reason. But, you know, as time goes on, you begin to learn that men who lash out like that are very weak individuals. So I decided to train myself and train with a couple of other really good trainers in the martial arts and learn how to defend myself. And then after a while, when I got picked on more towards ages 17, 18, 19, I would beat the living hell out of the guys who were picking on me. So I no longer had to do what I was told by loser bullies. That was one step. Then I learned the law. So I no longer had to do what I was told by cops or overzealous loser bylaw officers. And then I decided to learn tax law so I would never have to be told what to do with my own money. We just have to keep getting better in life. The only way to get something out of me is pay me for my time or point a loaded weapon at me, because I'm not dying for some cash. You'll get what you want when you've got that weapon. But God help you when you don't have one, and I do. So this is what it is, folks. Why is it now? I brought this up not to sound tough or callous or cruel. I brought this up to get you to understand that as you progress into your adult life, you have to build more and more defenses against more and more things. But eventually, when you do that, you'll come to the realization that you're now in the top 5 of tough people who won't put up with crap. 95% of people that scream and yell like this are cowards. They're cowards. You know the biggest cowards in the world right now? Crown attorneys in Canada. You know the people that prosecute you in the name of the crown? Losers. All of them. Judges too. Weak individual, weak losers. Who wants to wear a black dress and a big pretty sash and sit on a desk where you're elevated 10 feet above the rest of the world to prove to the world, I'm better because I was a lawyer for 10 years and now I'm a judge? Ugh. Who does that? Weak individuals do that. There's no judge that I've come across in Canada that does anything because they want to make society a better place. They're there for the huge paycheck and the power trip. So when you have knowledge like what I'm suggesting here that you should have, you're not going to be intimidated by people like that because you're going to see them for what they are. So here's the question I now have for all of you. What the hell are all of you adults so freaking afraid of in Canada? You're terrified of everything. It's actually quite unbecoming, if you want the truth. It's difficult, as I'll call myself a polite alpha, because I will use violence only when absolutely necessary, and I will do whatever it takes to be diplomatic and solve the issue without going to violence. You'll notice that I haven't had to go to violence in a very long time, but I will if I need to. That's the ultimate alpha. The guy who's not afraid of any of the situations handy, the guy who knows how to diffuse, the guy who knows the laws, who knows the policies, and so on. But you can do that too. I'm that kind of alpha male. Why don't the men watching this show want to be that kind of alpha male as well? Polite, diplomatic, forthcoming, blatantly and bluntly honest, and not one bit concerned about what the public has to say about him, and is physically strong enough and fit enough to defend not himself only, but his family. And is still really nice to people. Like, why don't you aspire to that? So that you need not fear the CRA, Revenue Quebec, the cops, the courts, you know, the men, the males, not the men, but the males out there who are completely full of bluster with nothing to back it up. I'm actually quite ashamed of a lot of people in Canada because of the amount of fear that they feel over nothing. And when you ask them, why are you afraid? There's no good answer. I don't get a good answer for it. So I'll ask all of you, maybe you people can answer for me in the chat room right now, why you are afraid of so many things. Why the males out there don't want to man up and do their best to become their best. Like, fear is in your way. Stop it. All right. Canola Girl says, I've got 2 girls from the CRA shop at my property. Okay. So if you have anyone from the CRA show up, call 911 or let them in and fire laser beams into their eyes. Your call, but you can call 911 and have them removed immediately. They're not cops. They have no right to be there. I have a place in Alberta. Should I do the same thing for folks that want to get their address in Alberta? Yes, but just keep in mind that the house that I bought, I'm never going to live in it. And that means that Antifa is never going to have a chance to come by and put another brick in my head. I wouldn't perform that service unless you know it's a house or maybe a barn or something like that you don't actually live in. But sure, nothing's stopping you from forming a business. And if anybody in Alberta, and especially Manitoba, this one's tough to find. If you've got a house or a condo or something that you own flat out and you want to do the exact same thing and become part of my network and make some money, let me know, man. I want to do business with everybody. I want to make money. Is there a way for the CRA to find out this information outside of the individual filing taxes? No, they're not detectives. In order for them to investigate you, they would have to hire a private investigator. And that's not something they're going to do because it doesn't make money. The CRA only does what's in their own best interest. And if there's a chance that they're going to lose even $1, they're not going to do it. No. What is my website address? My name, KevinJJohnston, Johnston.com. Everybody who knows my website address, please put it in the chat right now. Thank you. Appreciate that. As a realtor, what would you suggest I do? My brokerage emailed me my T4. Email your brokerage back and tell them to delete the T4, that you didn't approve the T4. You're not on T4, you're on contract, and that they need to cancel it immediately. If that doesn't work, get a hold of me on my website and we'll move to the next stage. Question here. All right. Question, do I need to let the CRA know about the sale of a business? How to not pay capital gains tax? You know why you pay capital gains tax? Because you tell them that you've got a capital gain. Why? No, you don't tell them. So if you're going to sell a business, sell it. If it's a share sale, like when I buy companies, you're off the hook, man. A share sale, there's no debts to you. Sell it, pocket the dough, go to Florida. Have a week off. Have a martini on me. You're buying, but have it on me anyway. No, you guys, everyone, you got to keep your mouths closed about this stuff. You simply cannot go around shooting your mouth off to anyone about any of this nonsense. Stop. If you're selling a house, you're selling a car, you're selling a business, you're selling gold and silver, you're selling your insurance policies, shut up. No, you don't tell the CRA any of this stuff. Okay. Nomi says, each year I get a speculation tax letter for my property. Is that from MCAP? I would need to know who that's from before I can advise you on how to stop that. So if you want to hit my website, let me know, please. I'm very curious to know who that is. Louis says it's very hard to live in Canada with all the sleepy people. Yeah. The CBC says you should hate Donald Trump. Elbows up, Canada. I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? The elbows up. So you got Canadians walking around like this. Elbows up. I hate Trump. Elbows up. This is what chickens do. Remember this? Remember that? Like, this is what we would do in grade school. Like, hey, you want to fight? No. What? Elbows up. How stupid do you all look? You're doing it because the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation tells you to do it. Yeah, you're right, Louis. That's a lot of sleepy sheep. Idiots. There was an amazing video. An incredible video. Okay, I got to describe this to you. This guy, he lights a big bonfire. The bonfire is about 20 feet wide. The flames are jetting up about 40 feet in the air. And he comes running in. He's got sheep, like literally sheep, chasing him. And then he runs around the fire, and the sheep all chase him around the fire. And then what he does is he stuffs the nose of the one lamb behind him into the butt of the lamb in front of him, and he gets out of the way. And the sheep just keep running around this fire in a circle, following each other to doom. And eventually, he made his point. The sheep just kept going. And it was obvious that it was going to be what's called a death spiral. Ants do this too, where they just keep running in circles forever until they exhaust themselves. So he had to go back in and pull one of their faces away from the flames, and they would follow him away. Isn't that crazy? That's what Canadians do. Canadians are those stupid sheep running in a circle around the big flame because the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation says, do it. So for all you Canadians out there who are saying, elbows up, you're idiots. All of you. You're stupid. It doesn't mean anything. What do you think is going to happen? Donald Trump is going to walk into Alberta and say, you know what? We want this province. Let's make it a state. And you losers in what? Toronto? You're going to go, wait, Trump, before you do that, elbows up. And Donald Trump is going to say, oh, okay, I get it. Okay, we're not going to take Alberta now. The same people in Canada who are saying elbows up, don't buy American, and are walking into liquor stores and grabbing American manufactured alcohol. What happened? Oh, here we go again. So, because I'm talking about elbows up, look at this. TikTok has just taken me off the live again. So we're going to finish the show off right now on Rumble and every other platform. Here's what it says. Live access status, view details. Your access to go live and multi-guest will be restored April 29th at 9:31 p.m. So I have to assume that that's going to be 9:31 p.m. Central Time, everybody. Your access to mobile gaming will be on the same day. Hate speech and hateful behaviors. TikTok is enriched by blah, blah, blah. Do I agree with this decision? No, I do not. Select up to 3 reasons. The notice is unclear. My live does not contain anything, something else, and submit. There you go, everybody. So now we can't talk about elbows up and telling Canadians how stupid they are with their like, buying into propaganda. Wow. Disappointing. But I guess it is what it is. I'm going to appeal this right now. Okay. So we're going to have to submit an appeal. It's under review. And there we are. So that is the big problem with Canadians. As you see, I'm insulting them, at least the stupid ones, telling them that their rhetoric that they are repeating, that they've heard on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, everybody, is foolish. And I get taken down for a week. Well, it is what it is, as they say. And looks like Twitch is doing the exact same thing. Wow. So, yes, everybody, those who are asking, I just got hit hard on TikTok. So I'm banned for a week, which means, well, we're going to move next week's show. I guess I'll start next week's show at 11 p.m. Eastern time just to be able to be live on TikTok for that same amount of time. So we do apologize for those on TikTok who've joined us over here on Rumble and so on. And we'll just continue answering your questions here. So, Kevin, what's the procedure to buy property in Panama with a credit card? Oh, it's real simple. There are 2 buildings right now that I'm working with where you can buy an entire condominium on a credit card. One is in the southwest of the country, and the other one, southwest of the city of Panama City, by the way, and the other one is in dead center of the city. It's actually quite remarkable, the structure. In fact, I filmed a whole day today at this structure, and I'm going to put the video out in about 10 days as to what you can buy with a credit card. You're going to absolutely love it. So, Stevens, If you're looking to get your hands on a property and you want to get all your points and whatnot on your credit card, do indeed let me know. And we will indeed take care of getting you a condominium on a Visa or a MasterCard. No problem whatsoever, my friend. All right, let's go to the Facebook chat room here and have a quick peek at what you guys are asking me here. Kevin, why do you hate Quebec? Oh my God, who said I hate Quebec? I can't stand Revenue Quebec because Revenue Quebec steal from Quebecois. But I always told you guys I had a great time in Quebec. I've always had a good time there. Quebecers are just people who come from a different part of the country who are being ripped off by the government, just like the rest of us, which is incredibly unfortunate. And it's extremely unsound. Let me just see if I can get back on my live feature here on TikTok. These guys, nope. They have great live access suspended. God, people, social media just sucks sometimes. It really does. It just sucks that you cannot tell the truth about anything anymore. Isn't it crazy? All right, everyone. So we're going to cover a couple of quick things here just in reference in general to Canada. And by the way, General Flynn, I'm sure you all know him, has gone out of his way to like a lot of my stuff online. I am in touch with members of the Trump administration right now, and I am very seriously taking this mayor campaign I'll be running in the city of Calgary. I do want the city of Calgary to join the United States specifically for as much economic opportunity as is possible. I want to have as many options for as many people in Canada as we can possibly get to make money. I'm going to tell you guys, it is a real pleasure and a joy to work really hard and to get paid for it. And in Canada, you simply don't get paid for your efforts. You don't get paid for what you do, not to the amount that you should be paid for it. So when you have highly skilled jobs that you do, when you take that high skill level to the United States or the United Arab Emirates or anywhere else in the world that's considered G20, you'll make money there. And it's just sad that under no circumstances will you be making money in Canada working hard. I can't stand that concept. And it's a cultural thing. Canadians, they always say, yeah, we can do it tomorrow. We can do it next week. We don't have to be in a hurry to get jobs done. But I'm telling you that you need to be in a hurry. You got to be hungry. The saying that I like the most is you should strike your iron when it's glowing hot. You know, that's from blacksmithing. So if your iron is glowing hot and you say, you know what, I'm going to take an hour break and come back, you're not going to be able to shape the metal because it's cooled down. It's got to be glowing hot. It's a pain in the butt to make it glow hot. Why? In the old days, you had to find wood, dry wood, get it into your furnace. You got to hit the thing with bellows. You got to light these fires and keep the fires burning all the time to make wood-based fire hot enough to melt iron so that you could cast it into something. If it ain't hot, you can't cast it. And what that means now, everyone, is that if you are wanting to make money, you've got to jump on the opportunities right here, right now, while they are there. So the Canadian mindset, and I don't like this particular mindset, it's, yeah, we can always do it tomorrow. We can do it next week. I can answer emails in 12 days. I can wait. I can make my clients wait. I can make my customers wait. They're going to come back. No, they're not. No, they're not. Because if you don't serve your customers, somebody else will. Right? So it's difficult to get that lesson to be absorbed by people in the country because Canada had it really good, like 5 solid decades of just prosperousness. And that's actually never good for the human race. Too much prosperity is not a good thing. Too much technology doing too many jobs for us is not a good thing because people become reliant on it and they become lazy and they become complacent. And then they also become spoiled in that they believe it's someone else's job to do the task at hand. And right now, I'm pretty sure the last 2 generations, at least in North America, not just Canada, but in North America, think that way. It's very difficult for any of you out there to become entrepreneurs and make a lot of money if that's the attitude that you wish to have. I don't recommend having that attitude at all. I know it's tough out there, and it's tougher out there today for kids than it was when I was a kid. I totally get that, but you still got to try. And when opportunity presents itself, you got to go. If you get offered a job, just take the job. What's the answer when you get interviewed? When can you start? Right now. Right now. What are you going to do different than anybody else I've interviewed? I'm going to make you money, and I'm starting right now. I'll make the phone call to everybody else you interviewed and tell them they didn't get the job. I'm going to make you money. That's what I'm going to do. And, elevate your voice a little bit. That's what they want to hear. They want to, I want to make money. If I'm working for somebody, I want them to make money. They make money, I make money. Right? So have the attitude. Do the Kevin O'Leary thing. I want to make money. Be like that. Make money. And then come to me to get your taxes done, because I'll make sure that you're going to keep 100% of every single solitary penny that you make. That's just how that is going to be. So I'll take any last couple of questions here. We're going to end the show in about 3.5 minutes. All right. Quebec got $18 billion in 2025. Well, I'm not sure if it was that high, but we're certainly going to have a look at those numbers and convert that over. What does it cost to become a citizen of Panama? Well, you're not going to become a citizen of Panama right away, guys, when you get down here. You will instead become a resident if you choose to. If anybody's over 40, just become a pensionado. It's the fastest, cheapest way to become a resident down here, and you get yourself a nice discount card, which will allow you to have 25% off of a lot of things and 10% off of a lot of government services, because they want pensioners to be in Panama spending their money. And I also wanted to point out that you can get things done cheap all over the place. I mean, I found out that nurses, if you hire a nurse in Panama to take care of your kids, they only get paid $40 a night, and they will work from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. They'll do a 12-hour shift for $40. I'm not saying come here and exploit people. I'm just saying that that's the difference in the pricing between Canada and Panama for that type of a service. So if you do want to have a family, you're a young couple, you want to have a family, you're never going to be able to afford to do it in Canada. You could do it here because you can actually pay for support and get it. And the support that you get down here and the work ethic that you get down here is pretty good, especially in the younger generations right now. The younger generations are kind of the opposite of Canadian young generations in that they want to work. They will seize opportunities down here. They have dreams, and they'll at least do their very best to chase those dreams. And that's the difference between the two cultures. Panama is a family-oriented culture that thrives because the family will support itself, the entire family unit, something that I admire and salute, and something that I haven't seen in Canada for a very long time. So everybody, that's what I wanted to say about tonight. If you're in Quebec, start making money. Let's get your corporation moved out of Canada, out of Quebec, my mistake, and into Ontario, where you can start pocketing every single penny that you earn. And you can reach me right now at KevinJJohnston.com. That's KevinJJohnston.com to get that started immediately. Let's get rich. Have a great night.